Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back for another video. I took a couple days off there, just a little bit of a light week this week, but it's Friday and I'm back with another movie recommendation. This is for the 2001 film Elvira's Haunted Hills. So like Elvira's Mistress of the Dark, this one is not a presentation from her movie Macabre show, but instead is a standalone film featuring the Elvira character. So, what is this film about? Well, the synopsis is as follows. Spooky hijinks abound when Elvira finds herself spending the night in a mysterious castle en route to 1851 Paris. So, needless to say, this is not in any connection really with Mistress of the Dark, as she's not a horror host and it doesn't take place in the 80s. This is simply another film featuring the Elvira character. Kind of like Mad Max Fury Road in a way, not being very connected in any solid way to Thunderdome. In a way. You know, with no Australian stuff, or sand, or gasoline, or water, or this little freak guy with the guitar. Anyways, maybe it's not really like that. A little bit more about this film, though, is that Elvira and her maidservant get kind of sidetracked while traveling through the Carpathian Mountains on their way to Paris for like a can-can review. Kicked out of an inn due to some monetary issues on their way, they end up staying at this castle where they meet Lord Helzebus, played by Richard O'Brien of Rocky Horror and Dark City fame. Now, I hadn't really seen him in much else, so this was great to see him in there, especially because I looked exactly like him. That's a joke, one which Cassandra herself actually laughed at. Anyways, while there, they get kind of mixed up in this local mystery at this castle involving the former wife of this lord, at what I can best describe as kind of like a parody of many of the older Hammer horror and thriller films. You know, taking advantage of that spooky and dark setting, they kind of set their mystery and play to many of those old tropes. But what really sets this one apart is, you know, from Mistress of the Dark, is kind of like the kind of comedy within it. You know, where Mistress of the Dark leaned heavily into the fish out of water feel of this macabre dressed and humorous attitude of Elvira being in that small conservative town, there was still a level of realism, you know, outside of all the witchcraft stuff, of course, a little bit of believability. It was very grounded in the 80s. However, with Haunted Hills, this one leans much more toward a comedic feel like a Mel Brooks film, or something along the lines of, though definitely nowhere near as extreme as like Airplane or Naked Gun. We get a lot of corny jokes and innuendos. We have a town local who has such a bad accent they had to dub him over badly in the film, which they even poked fun of. And just not as serious of a through line as Mistress of the Dark had. Especially great, though, was a comedy of Richard O'Brien. He brought some really great comedy to the screen, and he comes across as just extremely silly in this. But this is really something very separate and different from Mistress of the Dark. So if you were a big fan of Mistress of the Dark, some of that may catch you off guard. You know, that difference in tone, especially if you have no familiarity with like Hammer films or Mel Brooks style comedies. But if you are familiar with them, I think you'll really enjoy this one, as it really never takes itself seriously at all. It's got a lot more comedy going on in it than Mistress of the Dark did. But as I said, you know, we get this classic Cassandra Peterson comedy as Elvira, the same sexual innuendo and self-deprecating / sassy comebacks and comments driven comedy that she's known for, both in Mistress of the Dark and especially in movie Macabre during her segments of that. Of which, you know, if you've watched a lot of movie Macabre, you will get a sense of the kinds of films that she's kind of making fun of and parodying within this one. So with all that being said, if you go in understanding that this is a pretty big departure from Mistress of the Dark, with a different, more like spoof-like kind of amped up comedy tone within, and if you're also still a fan of Elvira, you know, or at least being familiar with her style of comedy, ultimately I think you will definitely find this one to be, you know, a lot of fun, very silly, and more than worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this quick latest little video here for Elvira's Haunted Hills from 2001, which at the time of this video is very easy to find because it is available on Shudder and AMC+, but it's also on a lot of free services such as Freevee, Pluto TV, and Tubi, as well as, of course, paid rental and physical copies as well. So if it sounds interesting, head on over to one of those places, one of those services to check it out, as it really is a lot of fun. Anyways, that's about all that I have for this one. Thanks for coming by and for sticking around to the end, as it really does help out quite a bit. If not already subscribed, feel free to check out my back catalog and, you know, consider subscribing and hitting that little bell icon to get notifications for when I put up new content, which is usually 1 to 3 times a week, depending on what I'm working through. But anyways, that's all I got for this one, so thanks for coming by, and I will see you in the next one.